So many people are led to believe that extreme boosts and cuts on their EQs can hurt their mixes, specifically when they're using stock EQs within their DAWs. Well, I'm here to prove once and for all that it's an idiotic myth and you really shouldn't worry about it. I'm gonna prove it to you in this video. Let's discuss. So before I dive into today's tutorial, I just want to let you know that we live in the absolute best time in human history to be a metal or rock musician. And this is because we have access to amazing tools like MIDI drums and amp sims. The problem is so many of us are making the same mistakes over and over and over again when using these tools. And because of this, I've put together a guide called the MIDI drums and amp sims production checklist. In the checklist, I highlight these common mistakes and how you can work around these mistakes so you could achieve better results in your home studio with the MIDI drums and amp sims that you're currently using. The PDF is absolutely free and you could have direct access by clicking the link below in this video's description. Now, like I said in the intro of this video, so many people, I actually can't believe this myth still exists, honestly, believe that, your stock digital EQ in your DAW will harm your mix or your source sounds if you do extreme boosts and cuts. I've heard people say things that it messes with phase and aliasing and all this weird stuff that honestly makes no sense, and you can easily disprove on your own with some basic testing within your DAW. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you and prove to you in this video, so stay tuned. If you've been around audio for any length of time, you should know by now that if you have two sources that are identical, meaning 1000% the same, and you flip the polarity on one of the two sources, the two sources should null 100%. In other words, they should cancel each other out. If you have two sources that are slightly different, in other words, the same, but maybe one has some artifacts or phasing, then they will not null. There will be measurable artifacts. So with that bit of information in mind, let's disprove this myth about boosts and cuts within your DAW once and for all. So right here, I have an entire mix. So let's listen to the mix as it stands right now. So right there, we have a final mix of a song. I'm gonna go in here and duplicate this track. So there are two of the exact same audio files side by side playing at the same time. Okay, so here is mix one, and this is the mix duplicate. And I'm gonna color it, I don't know, pink, just so it's crystal clear. Now, if I play these at the same time, it's gonna sound the same, just much louder because they are the same exact source playing at the same time, being summed together. Pretty obvious, the same exact mix, it's just louder, again, because it's duplicated. So just to prove to you how polarity works when combined with the same source, I'm gonna go in here and take a basic trim plugin, and I'm going to flip the phase on the second mix. And if these mixes are identical, which they are going to null 100%. Actually, before I engage the polarity reversal, let's look at the level in my master bus. As you can see, it's a nice hot signal because these two mixes are being combined and they are the same mix. Once I engage the polarity reversal on the second mix, they should cancel 100% and there should be no signal happening in my master bus. Let's watch the magic happen. There you go. These two mixes are playing at the same time, and because they are the same mix with the ones polarity reversed, the net result is a 100% phase canceled result. So if I bypass the second mix, you hear signal because the copied mix with the phase flipped is gone. Or if I bypass the plugin on the trim and reverse the phase back to where it should be, the mix pops in. So with that being said, in theory, if I add a bunch of EQ to the first mix, but not the second mix, and I combine the second mix with the flip phase with the first mix, you should hear this horrible distortion, this horrible phasing, and all of these artifacts crystal clear, or at least you should see some schmutz happening in the two bus. So with that being said, I'm gonna mute the second mix, I'm going to apply a stock, cheapo digital EQ on my main mix. And I'm gonna do something extreme. So right now I'm gonna boost around 2K by 15 dB, which in theory, according to these people, should do a whole lot of damage to my mix. So here we go, boosting 15 dB, which is crazy. Let's take a listen. Sounds like the same mix, just with a bunch of mid-range boosted. Now, if I combine this track with the un-EQ'd version with its polarity reversed, it's not gonna null 100% because I've manipulated the original mix with EQ. And let's prove that. As you can hear, you hear some phase cancellation, which makes sense because now the two sources are not the same. But now I'm gonna prove to you that EQ does not damage anything. All a digital EQ actually does is boost and cut frequencies. That's it. So I'm gonna go crazy here and I'm gonna duplicate this EQ so now there are two EQs on the original track. And instead of me boosting in the second one, I'm gonna keep the parameters exactly the same, but I'm going to cut by the exact same amount. So again, remember, we boosted by 15 dB. Now I'm going to cut by 15 dB. So right now I'm doing two very bad things to this original mix. I'm boosting a frequency by 15 dB and I'm cutting a frequency by 15 dB. Now, if this were true about introducing artifacts as far as phase and other problems, I'm doing a good job of it right now. But let's see what happens when I play this mix, which has a ton of EQ on it, mixed with the un-EQ'd version that has its polarity reversed. And again, I want you to pay close attention to what's happening in my master bus. Again, if there are any artifacts or phase problems, these two mixes will not null. But let's see what happens. What I just did was reintroduce the second mix that's un-EQ'd and has its polarity reversed to be combined with the crazy EQ'd original mix. And look what the result is. A complete null, 100%. Again, I'm going to bypass the second version that's un-EQ'd. And if I go in there just to prove it even further and bypass the original version that is EQ'd, so to be ultra clear here, what's happening is I'm combining these two mixes, and because they are exactly the same from a scientific standpoint, they are nulling 100%, which means all of this crazy EQ that I have happening on the original track is doing nothing, 0%, nothing detrimental to the original mix. Right here is proof that extreme boosts and cuts in a stock EQ has no negative effect on your original source sound. Now, when we're talking about artistic choices or source sounds that you capture, that's a different story, but I'm being specific here as far as EQ and the damage that EQ has on sounds in a computer. I can't believe this myth still exists. I've been hearing it since I first got into audio, and I used to worry about it until I came across a fellow named Ethan Weiner who ran the exact same experiment and proved that this is a stupid myth that makes absolutely no sense. So I'm curious to know, did you always think that stock EQs had a detrimental effect on sounds? Have you spent a lot of money on higher end EQs because you thought they were supposed to be smoother or sound better, or were under the impression that you wanted something more transparent because you thought your stock EQs sounded grainy? Oh, that's another good one, when people think that digital stock EQs sound grainy. Again, which makes no sense. Leave a comment in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your opinion. And again, if you're looking to improve your productions where you're using amp sims and MIDI drums, you could have direct access to my MIDI drums and amp sims production checklists. There's a link below to the free guide in this video's description. If you found this video helpful, like, comment, subscribe, and share. And do not forget to click the little bell icon so you can be notified every time I upload one of my weekly videos on all things metal and rock production. And until next time, stop believing dumb audio myths.